Now today, while I was out riding the R1, it dawned on me I've never really made a video of some of my gut feelings about comparing the FZR that I have to the R1 I have. And not a real comparison like a magazine would do, just a fun comparison. And you can watch this in 4K. Of course, just adjust your device. Well, it looks like it's going to be another spectacular riding day here in Rutherford, New Jersey. I can't wait to get out on the open road. This time of year, the leaves are changing, the temperature's perfect, the bikes are all ready to go. Life is good in Rutherford. And this time of the year, to me, it seems like a sin to miss any riding day, and you never know when you're going to get a nice clump of them together. Looks like right now we're in the middle of a beautiful week of beautiful weather. And again, I don't ever want to miss a riding day, period. So before I get out on the open road, there's always a certain routine I have to go through to satisfy myself that I'm going to have a good day. I like to clean up the bike. I don't like to ride a bike that's got any kind of bugs or anything on it, any dirt, anything like that. I like to check the air in the tires. I like to check the oil, of course, and the chain adjustment, and that it's lubed. I call that pre-flighting. I always suggest other people do it. Some people have told me that it's worked well for them. Well, it never hurts anything, that's for sure. And I always have the farm chores. And today, feeding the fish, getting the last of the veggies out of the garden. We might not have any more, I don't know. They're coming up on the end of it right now. And, of course, all the things, feeding the birds, feeding the fish, and that final cup of coffee. And every time I ride the R1, I'm amazed at one thing, how good modern fuel injection is compared to carburetors. This was really the first fuel injected bike that I had in my collection, and I really have come to appreciate the little subtleties of how good it is, not having a choke to deal with, that it always starts almost instantly, and it compared to the FZR with the choke, and the fact that it takes a little bit longer to warm up. This bike warms up very quickly. So the first comparison I'm trying to make as I'm riding today, I'm thinking, yeah, that fuel injection is just wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and I can't say enough about it. And Luciano always used to tell me about some of the bikes he had. He'd get the older version with the carburetors, and then he'd get the newer version with the fuel injection, especially the 600s that he had, and how much better it was. I didn't believe him until I got this bike. And I had already had the FZR for many years, used it as a track bike, tinkered with the carburetors, put a jet kit in, did all kind of things, but I never got it to be anything even close to like this bike is. And that is probably the biggest difference in the way the two of them handle, how they ride and take the gas, the main thing, the absolute main thing, how they take the gas. That's a big thing. Now, the two bikes in my collection is a 91 FZR and an 09 R1, and basically 20 years apart, and that technology in 20 years is night and day. There's so many little things, just little things that you recognize right away when you get on a bike. And the biggest one again is the power band, how Yamaha made the power band on this bike So much different than an FZR. And the FZR, for its time, I'm sure was one of the top bikes, and everybody enjoyed the fact that at about 10 grand, the front wheel came off the ground and blah, blah, blah. But this bike, boy, the power band when you're on it, so much better, so much more predictable, not even close. And a big difference in the two bikes, if you ride them on the same day or one day apart, the exhaust note on the R1 is a very different exhaust note than on the FZR. The FZR sounds a lot, it always sounds like it's working harder than it really is. And the exhaust note on the R1 always sounds like it's just loafing along, just idling along, and then you whack it and it almost tears your arm out of the socket. One of the things that's very different about the bike, the R1 has a much taller first gear. It'll go basically about 90 miles an hour in first gear before it tops out. The FZR, much lower, it's geared much lower. I think they were still concerned about drag racing track times. And the fact that the FZR has much lower gearing, it probably means it accelerates harder from a dead stop, or if you're carrying a passenger, it's probably some advantage. But I don't know. The nice thing about the R1 being geared so high is when you get out on Route 80, it's idling. It's basically idling at 70 miles an hour in high gear, unlike some of the bikes with lower gearing. Now, I had the FZR in my collection a lot, many years before I had the R1, so I got to do things like change the bars and things that made the bike more comfortable for me, and get used to the idea that what I really wanted at this point in my life, I wanted a comfortable sport bike with a very powerful engine. And I did not want to have the dumbed down engine that's got less horsepower or whatever. And I wound up with two bikes that both are very comfortable and both exciting to ride. Now, some of the things that are similar, both of the bikes handle real well. Both of the bikes have excellent brakes. Both of the bikes are, as I have them set up with normal handlebars, relatively comfortable to ride, and that's why I love them both. And over the years, I've really enjoyed having both bikes in the collection. And when I did the restoration on this, it was a brutal winter. I mean, this was probably the worst winter we've had in a long time. And I remember it took up, and I kept track of the time, it was 900 hours. It was a very long winter. I think having a humble collection of motorcycles like I have, basically one from every 10-year period, what it does, it allows you to compare how the technology was way back when, and then along the way, and modern, like my MT-09 is just a complete ride. It rides automatically almost, but this doesn't. Now, neither one of the bikes has traction control, and the FZR is a lot more prone to doing an unasked for wheelie in first gear if you're on the throttle and sitting back in the seat. It gets to about 10 grand and it just wants all hell breaks loose. This bike, a lot more controllable, a lot easier to feather in the throttle, get the back tire sliding a little bit, just a little bit more predictable. And I know that's all due to the CROSSPLANE engine and the way Yamaha has done a great job tuning that power band. But in the very end of the conversation, and it's always the number one thing on my list, I always want to have a motorcycle, number one, that is fun to ride. If a bike is uncomfortable, if a bike tends to need a lot of unnecessary maintenance, if it's not reliable, there's a lot of things can make a bike not fun to ride. But the biggest one is when you come home from a ride, if your back hurts and your wrists hurt and your whatever, I don't even know. That for me, it's taken me years to get all of the bikes in my collection to suit me. Now, other people, bigger people, smaller people, taller people, shorter people, they may not like what I've done. But for me, it works great, and Joe Roselli has such a great saying, I repeat it over and over, always ride the bike that you like, always. So you never ask a polygamist which wife he likes the best, and you never ask a man with a humble bike collection which bike he likes the best. The answer is, I like them all. So we have been blessed with just one more beautiful fall day. Leaves are changing everywhere you go, beautiful. Halloween decorations are out. Up in the riding area, it just couldn't be nicer. I'm so thankful to have days like this because we know what's coming. There's going to be a brutal winter coming a couple of months from now. And I made it through a brutal winter restoring that FZR, and I'm so glad I did. I will have that in my collection forever. And guys, thanks so much for watching.